What is up, Buffalo Fanatics? Z-Bot here with you. Live on the postgame show, fresh off what the doctor ordered. Buffalo Bills dominate the Carolina Panthers on the road in Week 8 to improve to 5-2. What a beatdown. 40-9, the Bills destroy Carolina. They go into this game as a touchdown favorite. They walk out beating their opponent by 31 points in the most impressive collective effort we've seen from these Buffalo Bills all season long. This is exactly what we were waiting for. It's what we got. We needed to see life from these Buffalo Bills coming off the bye, coming off 2 consecutive losses. Life is what we got out in Carolina this afternoon. An absolute decimation of a team that was on a 3-game win streak against a team that was running rabid on all of the lower end rushing defenses in the NFL. The Bills stepped up and answered the call in many different ways in this one, but no more so than on the defensive side of the ball and on the ground game. That is what led the Buffalo Bills to completely topple over a Carolina Panthers team that was better than advertised. You go into this game and you felt maybe a little bit nervous. The run game for Carolina, it's been really good. They're on a 3-game win streak. They're better than what they've been in the past. Meanwhile, you've seen what the Bills have been up until the bye, and really throughout the first month and a half, they hadn't put together a full great football game. And you could argue with the pass game, which we will discuss in this episode, you could argue they didn't put together an entirely perfect game today. But in the NFL, it's almost impossible to have a perfect game, a perfectly well-rounded game in every facet. This is about as close as you were going to get. And this is exactly what we needed to see. We needed to see the Buffalo Bills bounce back in areas in which they've been deficient. And that's what I wanted to see. Not only did I want to see the Buffalo Bills win the football game, but I wanted to see the Buffalo Bills come out and prove that some of the areas that were clear struggles for them going into the bye had some improvement, had some life to them post those 2 consecutive losses. That is what we saw today. I had to do a little bit of solo dancing. Rico is out of town at a wedding. I'm sure he's dancing a little harder at that wedding, maybe having an additional drink or 2 at that wedding after what our Buffalo Bills did this afternoon. I know he had to have been watching somewhere. I don't know if he snuck off to the bathroom or if they had it on at the bar for him. Hopefully they did, but I know he found a way to get it in, found a way to watch it. We all watched it. And what we watched this afternoon is exactly what we were hoping we were going to see. And really the Buffalo Bills in this one, they wasted no time. They really got out, in the first quarter, it felt like, is this going to be another one of those games, right? But you could tell early on it did feel a little bit different, even though the score didn't indicate it. It was only 3-0 after the first quarter. It still felt like their defense really showed up, right? It felt like the defense was going to be a problem today in a good way. And it really wound up being that. They allowed 9 total points, a garbage time touchdown late to allow the Panthers to get to 9. But really, if they would have had their full unit out there for this entire game, this one really could have finished, 50-something to 3. James Cook, who we'll talk about extensively in the postgame here, he could have finished with 350 yards if he wanted to. They did whatever they wanted on the ground and on defense. And that really is what the Buffalo Bills are going to be, or at least offensively, what they're built around now. They're built around establishing the run game. And if they can stop the run on the other end, this is a good defense in certain areas. Their biggest deficiency, of course, is the inability to stop the run. But when you do what they did today, hold that team that had been running all over defenses equivalent to Buffalo, when you hold them to 114 rushing yards, when you have a guy like Rico Dowdle who's been close to 200 yards in 2 of his last 3 games, that is a massive improvement. A massive, massive improvement. And then when you're running the ball the way you are on the other side of things, I mean, it was just an incredible display of complementary football. Easily the best we've seen thus far through 2025. There are so many positives to take away. There are a few negatives, certainly. We'll talk about those too, because as you know, win or lose, we are constantly looking into what these games mean for the future. The Buffalo Bills, of course, have become a team where you don't necessarily judge them on a week-to-week basis, but you judge them based on what you see and what you anticipate what you see will culminate into in the biggest moments. When you come into the season as a Super Bowl favorite, when you come in as a 5-time defending division champion, you come in expected to get the 1 seed more so than you ever have been with Josh Allen at quarterback. You judge this team differently. And so we look at this game. There's a lot of positives to take away. There are some negatives we'll get into. But this is what you needed to see. You needed to see a Buffalo Bills beatdown. We have gotten one up until this point, and it was against the Jets team that is the worst team in the NFL until they weren't this afternoon. I got to tip my cap. Shout out to the unfortunate Jets fans who had not experienced a win up until this afternoon. 38 points scored by the Bengals in 99.9% of every situation against the New York Jets where you score 38 points, you're winning the football game. Yet somehow that Cincy D lost 39-38. So shout out to the Jets. They got their first win. But up until this point, the Bills really, their only real dominant victory came against the Jets. And it was sort of a boring dominance, right? Where it was just the Jets really couldn't do anything. It wasn't like they were enforcing their will. It just felt like, man, the Jets are really bad and the Bills took advantage. In this one, no, the Panthers aren't a great team, but the Bills enforced their dominance upon them. It was just they came out and they completely eliminated any opportunity for this team to remain in the football game. Here are the stats to finish it. The Bills finished with over 400 total yards of offense. They held Carolina to just 244, 130 through the air, 114 on the ground. The Bills averaged just under 7 yards per play. And the big stat here, of course, 245 rushing yards. James Cook just had an all-time day. James Cook just had an historic rushing game for these Buffalo Bills this afternoon. In fact, so historic. James Cook had the most yards in a single game since O.J. Simpson back in the mid-70s. And what makes that even crazier is that James Cook did not play in the fourth quarter, and he had less than 20 carries. James Cook finished this game, 19 carries, 216 yards, over 11 yards in attempt. That is as absurd of a running back stat line as you will ever see. Not to mention it went along with 2 touchdowns, 2 beautiful touchdowns, including one that Greg Olsen basically called. He did the Bambino. He pointed out and called it. He said this Bills offense, they can run the football as good as anybody. But are they going to be able to develop this into chunk plays? Are they going to be able to score from 30, 40 yards out? The next handoff, James Cook takes it for a home run ball into the end zone, and it never really was the same since. It never felt particularly close. You could argue it was in the first quarter, but I don't know about you. To me, it felt as though this team came out looking better. Pass game, no, we'll talk about that. But you could tell the run game was there, and you could tell the defense came to play. That never dissipated. And then, of course, they would build on it from there. The second and third quarter, they just completely destroyed this team. They went into half up 16-6. They went into the fourth quarter after scoring 3 touchdowns to really seal the deal in this one. So 40 points scored. You coming off of a game where you allow Bijan Robinson to do whatever he wants on the ground. You allow Drake London to do whatever he wants through the air. And the Bills could not score. Outside of their opening possession, a scripted drive, and their opening possession of the second half, another scripted drive, they didn't score a single point in between. 14 points. That was about as bad of an offensive performance as you'll see from this current iteration of the Buffalo Bills. To be able to come out and answer the call with a 40-point performance that really could have been at least 50-plus, I mean minimum. This team put their backups in the second half. Mitch Trubisky comes in. Backups come in for the running back. Take James Cook out. Like I mentioned, James Cook, this seriously could have been a 300-yard game if they ran him into the ground 30 times, if they found it was conducive to, having him come out of this game with a ball you'd send to Canton because of the historic performance. It still was historic. And James Cook, all of a sudden, through the halfway point of the year, has become the focal point of the offense. He has been the offense, really. James Cook, if the Bills do not have him under contract up until this point this season, this team looks a lot different. God forbid James Cook had held out. You never knew what would have happened if they didn't get him under contract. Things could be way different. This offense now is a James Cook-led offense. It's been a running forward offense for some time, but it feels even more so now. This Buffalo Bills team is completely built on the run game, and you saw it this afternoon. They basically won this football game by handing the ball off and playing good defense. They won this game in a way that you would win a football game back in the mid-'80s. Josh Allen threw the ball 19 times. He had 12 completions. The Bills had 12 Josh Allen had 12 completions, and they score 40 points. And that's with a fourth quarter where they took the quarter off. Fourth quarter, they're on the sideline having a hot dog talking about the flight home. I mean, that's an unbelievable performance. The response was terrific. It's exactly what you wanted to see. You would have been satisfied with a W no matter how it came, but we talked about this. Something about this game, you needed to see strides from this team through the eye test. You knew the Bills were the better team. They were a touchdown road favorite. You're playing Andy Dalton in his first start for this team this year. You are a Super Bowl favorite coming into the year. These are the games you win. And you would have been satisfied with a win coming off of the 2 losses, no matter how it came. But this was what you were really looking for, even if you didn't want to say it, because I know it does feel there's an element of greed sometimes going into games where you're like, I just don't want to win. I want to dominate. Well, it is the NFL. These guys get paid too. And as I keep mentioning, the Carolina Panthers were no slouch. They come off 3 straight wins and they were running the ball as good as anybody in the NFL. And you would have thought coming into this one, as I did, as many of us did, this one was going to be closer than you would have thought 2 months ago because of what Carolina has been doing on the ground. That wasn't a factor today. Rico Dowdle, 8 carries, 54 yards. Chuba Hubbard, 12 carries, 34 yards. They would both combine for 84 yards. You go back to the last time we saw these Buffalo Bills and Bijan Robinson had what? $140 at half. You essentially held those 2 running backs who have been running rabbit all over everybody the last few weeks. You essentially hold these guys to half of what you held Bijan Robinson to in 1 half. This was a hell of a response. And it wasn't just in the run game. It was in every facet. They pick off Andy Dalton. They force a fumble on Andy Dalton. They sack Andy Dalton 7 times. This Buffalo Bills front was extraordinary. I hope to God Ed Oliver is healthy, because right off the bat, yet again in this game, Ed Oliver was an impact right in on the quarterback, making havoc on the D-line. He gets hurt. Looks like it was a bicep type injury. We're hoping for the best there. This Bills team continuously loses guy after guy defensively. More often than not, unfortunately, it seems to be pivotal guys. Ed Oliver, it doesn't get much more pivotal on this Bills D than him. Really hoping he's okay. Of course, he already missed a large chunk of the season as it is with another injury. So you're hoping he's okay. But look, they still dominated on D-line. Absolutely dominated in his absence. When he went out, really nothing changed. This Bills defense not only continued to stifle the run, but they made Andy Dalton's day a living hell. Andy Dalton comes in as a vet, taking over in his first start. The last thing that guy wants to do at his age, at this stage of his career, is to endure exactly what he endured today. I mean, this was a rough outing for Andy Dalton. That is the quarterback equivalent of hell on earth. And then you had just had everybody get in on the party today. You had A.J. Epinesa with a sack. You had Greg Rousseau with a sack. You had Ed Oliver with a sack. You had Joey Bosa with a sack. You had Michael Hoyt. Shout out to Hoyt, by the way. He was in, on, and all around the quarterback this afternoon. Great to see the impact felt by him, by Larry Ogunjobi in their first game back off the suspension. Deion Walker with a half sack. Jordan Phillips from the practice squad with a sack. I mean, really, anybody that took a rep on the D-line today, it felt like they got in the backfield, they got a sack. I mean, this was an extraordinary performance. And the ability to dominate in both ways, the ability to take away the pass and take away the run. Yeah, you still had a couple of chunk plays here and there in the pass game, but compared to what we've seen up until this point, Ted McMillan, 7 receptions, 99 yards, but it never quantified into something punishable, really. There was only 1 drive or 2 drives where it felt like the Panthers were somewhat threatening. Outside of that, really, they completely held this team in check with no ability to put points on the board. I mean, you even go down to right before the half there, things could have gotten interesting. Right? The Bills are up at that point 19-3, and the Panthers are right on the precipice of getting into the end zone and making what felt at that time a 30-0 game be a narrow 2-score game. Would have been 19-10. and they get yet another sack. The Panthers do not have any timeouts. They can't stop it. God bless them. They still got the kickoff. I don't know how they did it. They got the field goal attempt off, but because it was so rushed, because they had no time to set it up, they miss it. So that was just another play. I mean, the amount of plays made by this defense today, off the charts. AJ Epinesa, what a day for him. A sack and one of the most impressive interceptions you'll see, batting the ball up at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, batting that ball up, kneeing the ball off of his right kneecap and then picking it off and taking it for what was this close to being a pick six. Josh Allen caps it off with a tush push, which apparently is back in the play sheet now. Have we seen a tush push up until this point all year? They ran it twice today, once for a touchdown and another. Actually, they might have even ran it more than that, but at least twice, once for a touchdown, one with a penalty called on it, which you never see. But that apparently seems to be back in the playbook. But AJ Epinesa, an incredible day. Greg Rousseau really set the tone early, forcing that strip sack or that strip fumble rather on Andy Dalton as he was scrambling to the right side. They really just dominated. This was such a fun watch, and the defense needed this, did they not? And here's the thing now. You now have a game and a half consecutively here where the defense really did look good. They looked good, really good in the second half of that Falcons game. It was the only reason the Bills had a prayer in being back in that football game on Monday night 2 weeks ago. So they parlay that into this game where this was their best performance of the year. And once again, I have to emphasize for those who I see in my Twitter mentions saying, well, of course they look good today. It was Andy Dalton. It was the Carolina Panthers. Okay, well, they didn't look good for 30 minutes of the football game against the Falcons team who, did you see what happened to them today? Did you see what happened to the Atlanta Falcons today? Well, if you missed it, let me inform you because this, the NFL is just absolutely insane and makes no sense. The Atlanta Falcons today got BTA'd from the Miami Dolphins, who all throughout the week, you're thinking if this team is going to just pack it in. I mean, the way things were going, not only on the field, but of course in the press conferences, they just seem like a defeated football team. They go out against that same Falcons team. Granted, no Michael Penix, but Kirk Cousins. I mean, come on, Kirk Cousins is still. It was a little over a year ago where Kirk Cousins gets a unbelievable dollar amount to go and play quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons before they draft Michael Penix, right? And Michael Penix hasn't even played a full year yet. So it's not like, Kirk Cousins is some pushover. Plus, they can still run the football exceptionally well. And the Dolphins' run defense, who got absolutely flattened by this same Panthers team that the Bills stifled today, the Dolphins just beat the Falcons 34-10. So for those who are not at all impressed with what the Bills just did this afternoon, that's ridiculous. Because this Bills team got walked on, destroyed, completely bulldozed by that same Falcons offense minus Michael Penix. In reality, though, in that first half of Monday Night Football, what did Michael Penix really do? He was just getting the ball to Drake London and letting him go nuts, and then they were just handing it off to Bijan Robinson. It wasn't like, Michael Penix channeled his inner Tom Brady for 30 minutes. He just threw some curl routes to Drake London and let him go nuts. And then they handed it off to Bijan Robinson. So I don't want to hear it because Kirk Cousins was the quarterback that it was this gigantic gap of a difference. It wasn't. So for those who aren't finding satisfaction in what you watched this afternoon, I think that that's wild because this is exactly what we needed to see. If you were to go to the doctor and have a prescription written for what we needed after those two losses and after the bye week, this would have been what the doctor would have prescribed. This was the anecdote. This is exactly what you needed. Would you like to see a better day from Josh Allen in the air game? Yeah, but I would argue that throughout the course of the game, it did come along. It was far better in the second half of the game than it was in the first half, that's for sure. But like I keep saying, and like I mentioned earlier, you can't have the most perfect picture of a game in the NFL. I mean, it happens maybe once a year where you just do every single little thing right. But up until this point, the Bills have been doing a large share of things wrong. And in this game, what was it? If we have a pie chart that you can fill out with 100%, in terms of 1% being the worst game you could play and 100% being the best game you could play collectively, how much of that pie chart's filled out after that game? 85%, 90%. That is a statement W. That is a statement W. I implore you to understand that it's not like you just went and played the Jets again. And also, by the way, just to give you an idea of what the NFL is on a week-to-week basis, the Jets scored 39 points against the Bengals. Now, that's a horrid defense. And we've talked about this. The Bills in areas they have struggles defensively. Noticeable struggles. But collectively, it's not a horrid sieve of a defense. We've talked about this. It's these explosive plays that have done them in, and you can't say that they're an anomaly and you can't just overlook them. They're still a massive part of the game. It's why the D numbers are as poor as they have been in the run game up until this point. It's why they've lost a couple of these games. Right? But no explosive plays allowed today. They held that team in check throughout. And this is a bounce back game. I mean, this is a bounce back game in every way. In every way. And this has you certainly feeling a lot better about what you saw from the defense and this run game, this offensive line. The offensive line from the jump, you could just tell the push they were getting early, and it never went away. I mean, they were trucking the Panthers defense down the line. And the other thing too, don't get it twisted. The Panthers, it wasn't like they were coming in here with a Pop Warner squad in terms of their run defense. In fact, their run defense, by the numbers, noticeably better than that of the Buffalo Bills going into this game. You would never have thought that. If you didn't know the numbers and if you hadn't watched a game prior to this, you would have thought that the noticeably better run defense in this game, or just in general, the Buffalo Bills. You know, the Panthers went into this game with a decent run defense. It was their biggest struggle in the defensive department was actually their pass defense going into this one. You look at the rushing efficiency numbers. The Panthers came into this 7th in the league in terms of rushing efficiency allowed on the defense. So you didn't just go in and play against the D that was incapable of stopping the run. The Bills imposed their will running the football. It wasn't like they just allowed them to do it. They went and took it. They went and took it. The game that James Cook just put together behind this offensive line was unbelievable. This was truly an historic day from James Cook, who has had up until this point an absolutely remarkable season. You know, oftentimes when people get paid, you worry about them living up to the billing, and especially at the running back position where this was such a controversial extension. So many people were weary of giving James Cook a contract. And I think most people agree that the contract he got was within reason, where the Bills benefit from it and James Cook benefits from it. He winds up becoming the 7th highest paid running back in the NFL. Up until this point, not only has he earned that contract, he is completely outplaying it through the first 7 games of the year here. Yeah, he's had a couple of games that maybe weren't the most impressive thing in the world, but I mean, these are the numbers right now. I mean, these are the numbers. You got 107 carries for 537 yards and 5 touchdowns. The dude's been phenomenal. It's been absolutely terrific. And today, I mean, this was a show. They had no answer. They had absolutely no answer. And if that offensive line is going to continue to play like that, James Cook is going to, he might be on pace to have an all-time running back season for this team, especially if they keep going to him. And here's the reality right now of this Buffalo Bills offense. They are going through James Cook. The Bills offense currently is going through James Cook and this offensive line. The Bills passing offense right now the Bills passing offense right now, for the most part, is pretty non-existent. It is very rudimentary, and what is working for them in that department, I don't think is consistent. It's a lot of screen passes, and it's a lot of dunks over the middle. They are not completing balls down the field. There is no pass game in existence for this offense right now beyond 15 yards. It just really doesn't exist. Their best touchdown, of course, today through the air, or their best touchdown through the air all season came today, and it was to Khalil Shakir, and it was a curl route that, you know, him being the yard after catch king wound up making something happen there, and House calls it. But that wasn't like it was some deep shot ball to Khalil Shakir for 60 yards and a score. I mean, he made that happen. The Bills right now are really incapable of killing you through the air. In fact, not only are they incapable of killing you through the air, they're really incapable of really doing much through the air outside of keeping things in around the line of scrimmage and right around the first down marker. Now, if they can continuously do that, then that's one thing. If you can continuously get Khalil Shakir the ball in the flat or on the outside and have him, take a 10-yard pass through the air and turn it into a 25-yard gain, well, nobody's going to be complaining. And I'm not sitting here complaining after this game, but there were some signs in this game that tell you that if you're not maybe playing a game where your defense is destroying the Carolina Panthers offense, and maybe you're in a game like next week where you're playing a Chiefs team that many would argue right now is the best in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes is playing at an MVP level. Many would argue that pass game that we saw on display today might not be enough. And I don't want to sit and harp on the negative that I thought we saw from that area of the game today, because in reality, it really wasn't needed. And, Josh Allen still finishes with 163 yards on 12 attempts. But also, I think we can all agree here, handful of moments in this football game where Josh Allen just flat out misses a wide open receiver. A lot of people want to blame the woes of the passing game right now on the inability for receivers to get open. And sure, that's part of it. I mean, right now, Keon Coleman, it's not there. It doesn't exist. Had a couple catches in this game. One comes in late when Josh Allen's not even on the field. And Dalton Kincaid only one catch in this game, and it was probably their best throw of the game over the middle for a 23-yard gain. It was a somewhat deep shot compared to what they've been doing as of late. But, Khalil Shakir was the star today. It was great to see him have a breakout day. But of his 88 yards, he finishes with 88 yards on the game with 6 catches, and 54 of those yards came on the touchdown where he takes a curl route and house calls it. So the offense right now, it is James Cook, the offensive line, and then you're going to hope to get what you got out of the pass game today. Stuff around the first down marker, the line of scrimmage. I mean, Josh Allen had 12 completions today. How many of them were screens? 3 or 4 of them? And then how many of them were around the first yard marker or in front of it? At least half of them. I mean, really, at least half of them. Now, granted, once again, it was a game where you didn't need it. You didn't need Josh Allen to be Josh Allen. You didn't need him to throw the ball 35, 40 times. You didn't need him to have 300 yards or whatever else. But I think we saw some stuff today that has been, sort of correlated to what we've seen previously. The pass game today might be the one thing that didn't look noticeably improved based on the woes going into the bye. And we'll see. Not every week are you going to be able to win games like this the way that they did. And give them credit. They did it and then some. And I'm not knocking the way that they won the game, because they won it in dominant fashion and they continued to go with what was working. But you watch that pass game today and you can't help but wonder what that might look like next week, what that might look like down the line here in games where you're going to have to throw the football. I mean, let's be honest. Once again today, Josh Allen, this is now 3 outings where it's not Josh Allen football. It's not 2024 MVP Josh Allen football. And really, outside of the heroic late game comeback in the Baltimore game, we haven't really seen that version of Josh Allen in 2025. Now, he is still Josh Allen. He still is one of the league's greats. And you're hoping that that's going to get tapped into as this season continues to move along. And if you are able to win football games as that is maturating through the ground, and if you're able to have defensive performances like this afternoon, it's going to be hard to complain. But there are going to come games where this team's going to need to air it out. And I'm worried about those situations right now, because this is now becoming a theme where they are just not really capable of pushing the ball down the field through the air. And the only way that they're really able to get the air game going is by basically snapping it and immediately throwing it. Immediately throwing it. Now, I think Koala's making a good point. He's going, honestly, even MVP Allen wasn't airing it out. Let's be real. And you're right. There was not a whole lot of drop back, chuck the ball down the field, boom, Brett Favre style, hucking the ball deep. No, I get that. But this pass offense compared to last year is a shell of itself. And that's a fact. That's a fact. And we're also watching Josh Allen. He didn't throw an interception today, but we're also watching him miss wide open guys. This is why when I continuously keep hearing everybody talk about that, the fact that this pass game and its issues are completely based on the inability for receivers to get open, I would say that, yeah, that's certainly part of it. There's some plays you watched this afternoon where Josh Allen will scramble out of the pocket and try to make something happen, and it's just not possible because nobody's open. That's certainly part of it. But I also watched a couple of plays today where Josh Allen put the ball nowhere near where a wide open receiver was. And that's usually not what we're expecting. But if you can get this out of Shakir, right, and you can get the screen game working, then it certainly helps. But right now, it really does seem as though the Bills' offense is completely centered around the ability to run. And if they can run the football, they are going to succeed. If they can't run the football, I think that the Buffalo Bills offense is going to be in some noticeable trouble. And I think that that's fair to say. I don't think that we have learned up until this point that the Buffalo Bills are capable of winning a football game against a top-tier team without the ability to establish a significant run game. Now, luckily for Buffalo right now, they're running the ball about as good as anybody. And if the offensive line is going to play like they did this afternoon and James Cook's going to be able to take advantage of it the way that he did, there's not going to be a whole lot to worry about. I mean, this team really is running the football about as good as anybody in the NFL right now. And you can't have it all. I'm not saying you can, but you do have a quarterback that's coming off of an MVP win here. You got a quarterback that you know is capable of doing unbelievable things. And I'm not saying that today was necessary. You don't need it. You didn't need it today. But I will say that there were moments where they did try to get the pass game going, and it just felt like it was really difficult. And that's something that it's felt like for a while now. So we'll have to see. Will Brandon Beane make a move here at the deadline? Is that the solution? I'm not sure what is. I'm not sure what is right now. But I do think it's more. I think it's a collective effort here of. Some of it could be play calling. I think some of it could be the lack of talent overall at the wide receiver in terms of high-end talent at that position. And I also just don't think Josh Allen is playing a top-tier football right now. But, there's something to be said about getting out of their own way. And the Buffalo Bills did not turn the football over. And we go back to the last couple of games, and that was a problem. And it wasn't today. In fact, the Bills were doing exactly what we've gotten accustomed to them doing, and that's not turning the football over and then forcing turnovers on the other end. And they did that extraordinarily today. So I think that the one thing you take away from this game beyond the dominance, the one thing you take away is you're keeping a close eye on this pass game. You certainly are. And I know that if I know Josh Allen, the competitor, and I know Joe Brady, I know this team, I know they're walking away from this one not feeling overly satisfied about what they were able to do through the air. Now, I will give them credit. They were able to improve in that area throughout the game. It started off really slow, but the points still all count the same. I don't care if it's a 10-yard pass or a 70-yard pass. If Khalil Shakir can make that happen, you're going to take it however it comes. The thing of it is, though, is can we consistently rely on dunking it off to Khalil Shakir and then having him make magic and go 54 yards? I want to be able to see this team move the ball through the air consistently, and I don't think that we're seeing that right now. And I think you're going to come up against the team this upcoming week where you're going to be in position to need to do that. Every time you play the Chiefs, it's going to come down to a score. It's going to come down to the wire. And you might not be able to run the football in that moment. It might be a 2-minute drill. You might not have any timeouts, whatever. Are you going to be able to drive the football down the field through the air? And I think right now, from what we've seen, it's safe to say that would put you, the fan, it would put you in a state of worry if that was to end up being the situation. Thing of it is, though, is we know that they're capable of it. But unfortunately, we have not seen a whole lot of that this year. And I'm wondering what it's going to take to be able to get to that. And if that's making a move, I mean, we've heard the rumors, right? We've heard rumors about them making a potential move at wide receiver. We've heard it from multiple beat reporters or multiple journalists at the national level. There's been nothing concrete, and there really hasn't been any specific names. But you've heard the names thrown around, right? Olave, the potential of A.J. Brown, which, that would none of these would be easy. Olave would be a bit easier, of course. I see at this point, though, if that's what you think is the difference, I have no problem with the Bills overspending at wide receiver if that's what they think is going to be able to open things up. I mean, the Bills, essentially their first round pick more than likely will be an early second round pick in the grand scheme of things. Do what you got to do. But anyway, in this football game, though, this afternoon, it was like I said, if you're looking at the pie chart here, it was 90% positive. The 10% negative to me was the inefficiencies in the pass game that were noticeable. But I think if we're looking at that pie chart, I'm looking at a 90%. I'm looking at that pie, and 90% of it is a whole lot of good. Whole lot of good. This defense, let's give them their flowers. Let's spend some time here talking about what we saw from this Buffalo Bills defense. This is the unit of the team that is continuously dogged on. They are continuously blamed for all of this team's struggles, even if it's not necessarily warranted. And I looked at the last game that they played before the bye against the Atlanta Falcons, and I still saw people wanting to pin the majority of the blame of that game on the defense. While I do think that there is somewhat of an argument to be had to be able to make that statement, I do think that the Bills defense completely reversed the way that they were playing in the second half of that football game, while the Buffalo Bills offense was consistently mediocre to below that throughout the duration of that football game. And if we look at the second half of the Atlanta game, the Buffalo Bills defense did everything imaginable to allow that team to not only get back into the game, but really multiple opportunities to go and win the game. And they did not take advantage of a single one of them. So I look back at that game, and it really felt like the Bills were starting to gather some momentum in the locker room of the Atlanta game. And I think you saw that really kind of make its way into this game. Max Harrison out there in his first NFL start. I thought he got some really good reps in. Thought he looked good. He had a great tackle. And I was so glad that McDermott decided to rip the Band-Aid off, not wait any longer, and go and allow your first-round draft pick to get reps. Go out and allow him to get his feet wet. Because you draft this guy to be the future of a positional group on this team currently that is just not up to snuff. It is not good enough as it stands to be a unit that you rely on to take on some of the better passers in the NFL, which the AFC is completely filled with. You needed to get him out there. You needed to get him ready to rock, because that's what you're going to be facing down the stretch here. You're going to be facing top-end opponents, and of course, you're going to blink, and before you know it, 2 months is going to go by here, and the Bills are going to be making their way into postseason football. He needs to get as much experience, much reps as possible. And I thought this was a perfect opportunity to do it. You were going into a game that you felt pretty confident in. I mean, it obviously depends on your varying degree of confidence, but I think we all thought we were going to see a better Bills team today. I mean, that was at least the hope. And of course we certainly did. My whole thing though, is you would have much rather saw Max Harrison get some experience, no matter how limited it was, get some reps in against the Panthers instead of trotting him out in his first NFL game against Patrick Mahomes. I just thought that would not make any sense. You're going to throw this guy to the Wolves against that team who's now fully healthy, right? Rashee Rice, Worthy, Kelsey, and obviously Mahomes, who currently right now is the number one fantasy quarterback for what that's worth. It just goes to show you, though, that offense is far better than what it was. That offense is now clicking to a degree that they were really not last year at any time, really. The Chiefs didn't score plus 30 until they met the Bills in the AFC Championship. And they're right around 30 routinely now. And I just thought that if you were going to wait on Harrison and then debut him against the Chiefs, it was just not going to be the ideal spot to get this dude his first real experience in the league. And then you could argue, well, should they wait till the week after? And then it's like, well, you get to the point where, man, this guy was on IR, which should be a 4-week designation, and you're going to wait to get the guy in there for the first time in week 10. So, I think a lot of credit actually needs to be given to McDermott for just saying, you know what, we're putting the guy in today. We're putting the guy in today, and we're going to build from there. I give them credit because I think that it might have, there probably was some discussion about whether or not it was the right time. You're coming off of 2 losses, right? You're coming off, you're kind of in a very tumultuous point of the season where fans have now spent the last 2 weeks pinpointing every inefficiency of this team and bitching and moaning because you now have 2 full weeks to sit on 2 consecutive losses. And the organization might be looking at it and saying, is it really the right time to trot a rookie out there and maybe potentially compound things because he's just not ready? I give them credit. I give them credit for putting him out there. And I give him credit, of course, for going out there and for what I thought to be a good debut. Obviously, there's nothing within the football game that I think stands out where you're like, oh, my God, this defense is completely different with Max Harrison now. But like I mentioned, had a couple of good plays, and it felt like he was moving around really well, which you love to see coming off of that type of injury. You know the speed that he possesses and brings to this team. I thought some of that was on display, and I was really glad the Buffalo Bills were able to get him back, or able to get him to debut in this football game and allow him to continue to build on that moving forward as you do take on some of the better teams in the NFL. How about Michael Hoyt? I mean, come on. The dude was noticeably he was noticeably wrecking up the D-line. This D-line in particular today, and maybe that was because of his presence and Larry Ogunjobi being back. Maybe just because these guys were back, the totality of the defensive line was able to completely dictate the football game as a result. Joey Bosa had a phenomenal game. Greg Rousseau had a phenomenal game. AJ Epinesa, Michael Hoyt, Ed Oliver before he got hurt. I mean, really pick your poison. You could have thrown a dart at the roster today on the defensive side of the ball on the front line. And if it landed on it, more than likely the guy that you landed on had a great day today. I mean, really, everybody was a part of the party this afternoon on the D-line. And Hoyt, I mean, I know he's been itching, right? That's a guy who's been itching to get back off that suspension. He comes in and noticeable 1.5 sacks in his Buffalo Bills debut, right? Buffalo Bills debut for Michael Hoyt, 1.5 sacks to go along with the 7 total that this Bills defense had. It felt different defensively today. I mean, it really did. And I understand, even though I'm stressing that this Panthers offense is no sieve. I understand it's not, the Ravens with a healthy Lamar, and it's not the Bengals with or without a healthy Burrow at this point. My God, they're with Flacco, they're scoring at will. I understand. But once again, I mean, this is a team that was running the football as good as anybody in the NFL the last near calendar month here. And they really never let them get going, ever. They had a couple of decent runs. That's going to happen when you have one of the better running back rooms in the NFL. But in terms of what the Bills have been allowing on the ground up until this point, this was pretty much dominance. And then you couple that with what they were able to do through the air. It was unbelievable. I got my beautifully... Caroline, you want to come in?
I look crazy.
Here's Caroline, 15 days away from Baby Bot. And we're very, very excited. 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow. Oh, my God. Now, you had a question for me. What was that question?
Do you want Thai food? Chloe's ordering some.
Oh, wow. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm so full. I'm not eating, but I just want you to get mad that you were Thai foodless.
Chat, let me know. What are we thinking? Thai food? I don't know. I'm not really feeling it.
That's fine. I just want to make sure you
I got some chicken wings in the fridge. I'm going to throw them into the air fryer. Okay, I am seeing a very interesting chat here. And Michelle, this is nothing against you. I just want to make sure we're confirming this from everybody, because this is very interesting to me, and I appreciate you pointing this out. And if anybody else heard this, let me know. Michelle, he's saying, hey, Z-Bot, I just saw that they asked McDermott if it was him calling the plays, and he said it was him and Bobby. Now, you're saying the majority was 97% him. Did he say that? Or is that what you're inferring? Either way, if he's playing a role in the play calling, that is something. That is something of note here. Because as I mentioned, you're talking about a first half in Atlanta that couldn't have been worse defensively. I mean, it really couldn't have been worse. You are getting just completely flatlined through the air and on the ground. Then all of a sudden they go into the locker room. They come out for the second half, and Bijan Robinson's a non-factor. Drake London's a non-factor. They have, 85 yards of total offense. They don't score a point until a late field goal. And I think many people were questioning at the time whether or not McDermott took the play calling over at half in that game, because how else could you explain away such a massive change in efficiency and production? Now you go into this game 2 weeks removed from that, and this is their best defensive performance in a long time. If anybody else was able to get any notes on that, or maybe I can just take to Twitter here and see if I can find out anything additional, because I think that is something. What does that mean for Bobby Babich, and what does that mean for our expectations of this defense? Yeah, here we go. Shout out my man Alex Brasky. He's got it up on his Twitter. It literally popped up right when I went over to Twitter. Alex said that McDermott said, quote, McDermott reveals that he and defensive coordinator Bobby Babich have called plays together this season. But was that a known thing up until this point? I don't think it was a known thing that they were working together. I don't know how new that is, but I do think that is new. And McDermott says, quote, "Me and Bobby have done it together, and that will continue." Look, I don't care if Bobby Babich is calling it, if McDermott is calling it, if your grandmother's calling it. If it's going to look like it did in the second half against Atlanta and it's going to look like it did today, do it. I don't care. I don't care if you got Johnny from Cheektowaga calling in into the booth and sending down plays, through the transmission system. I could give an absolute rip who the hell is behind who the mastermind is behind the play call. Because if it's going to look like it has the last game and a half here, this team is a problem. Now, that defense is going to look like it has the last game and a half. That is going to be a problem for the opposition. They shut down the Panthers today, the entire game, and they shut down Atlanta for a half last week. Something was noticeably different, and it does make a lot of sense that something could be what might be a significant change in play calling and the play caller. Before this was brought up, and by the way, Michelle, shout out to you bringing that up, because I think that is awfully interesting, and maybe we'll learn more about that as time goes on here going into tomorrow. We'll talk about it more on the smoke break tomorrow night. But I was talking about Michael Hoyt in this D-line, and look, I was excited to see what Hoyt had. There's something about him where he just seems like a guy you want on your defense. He's just got that, in a good way, that lunatic element where like most good defensive players have that, where it just feels like, man, I wouldn't want to go up against the guy, basically. It just seems like he has that ability to unleash. And I really do think we got an extraordinary debut. This is a guy that hasn't played football in months. And look what he did today. 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks. He hit the quarterback twice, tackled for loss, and of course he had a forced fumble as well. I mean, this is an unbelievable debut. And I don't know if we can quite quantify yet how much of an impact these additions are going to make. And they could not have come at a better time. When you're now adding Michael Hoyt, you're adding Ogunjobi, and you got Maxwell Hairston back healthy and inserted into the lineup. Jordan Poyer now elevated too. Jordan Hancock got a little bit of burn this afternoon. You mix that up with what looks to be, some sort of noticeable change behind the defensive strategy and the play calling. All I can say is we're watching a trend upward. I go back to the game prior to the bye, and I look at the second half, and I look at this game, and that is, if this is a stock, I mean, we are literally about to file for bankruptcy going into halftime of the Falcons game until all of a sudden the banks bail us out at half, and all of a sudden now we're starting to, we might be on the buy list again. Now, of course, we're going to need to see more consistency, and we're going to need to see an elongated example list here. But I think we were all in agreement in the fact that we just wanted to see improvement. And I think we are seeing noticeable improvement. Over the last game and a half, this Bills defense has been noticeably better. And this was their best performance in a while. Yes, it's Andy Dalton. I can't stress this enough. This team has been running for 200 plus yards on everybody the last month. And not just everybody, but run defenses that were in the basement with Buffalo going into this football game in Dallas and Miami. That was the Bills. I mean, if we're talking about, you ever see those memes where they got the different characters at the lunch table? Where would you sit? The lunch table for the Bills defense would be they'd be sitting with the Cowboys and the Dolphins at the bottom of the run defense basement. And you wouldn't have known that this afternoon. There are interesting developments throughout this defense right now, with guys being back, and then what seems to be interesting change behind play calling. And I don't know if we'll ever get the full revelation here in terms of how much has changed between the play calling of Babich being transitioned to McDermott, how often this was occurring prior to last week at halftime or 2 weeks ago at halftime. But you have got to be ecstatic about what you saw from a defense today that has their first round draft pick back healthy, two of their bigger offseason acquisitions off a suspension. And then, of course, one of their bigger offseason acquisitions in Joey Bosa have a great day today as well. I mean, that to me, and you know it's crazy when James Cook has a performance that rivals that of prime O.J. Simpson from 50 years ago. You know it's an incredible defensive performance when I think that is on par in terms of what you will remember from this football game. 7 sacks, multiple turnovers forced, 9 points allowed. I really do think that the big takeaway here, it's almost, to me, it's like a 50-50 split. It's James Cook and it's this defensive performance. And of course, this is what you wanted to see going into a game like next week that really could be so pivotal. You got the Patriots continuing to win here. And I don't know if that's going to end anytime soon with the schedule that they have. I mean, they rolled the Browns today. They were up 9-7 at half, and you were thinking maybe something could happen there. And no, nothing happened there. They wound up completely rolling them in the second half. So now you got New England. They're 6-2, right? They won that game 32-13. It was 9-7 at half. But next week, if you're able to beat Kansas City, then you can really start to formulate your path to the 1 seed again. You lose next week and Kansas City continues to play well, and you see New England continuing to stack games. Not to say the Bills are missing the playoffs. I think we can all agree that, if we get shades of what we saw today, this team's going to be playoff bound, especially with the back half of the AFC right now being, you do have a loaded top end, but the back end is bad. I don't think we're going to see many people sneaking in, especially with a team like Cincinnati losing today. That was such a bad loss for Cincinnati. Terrible loss. We'll see what happens with Pittsburgh tonight, taking on Aaron Rodgers' former team in the Green Bay Packers. Denver right now beating up on Dallas. They're 5-2. If Dallas had any sort of defense, maybe you could anticipate a comeback here, but they do have an incredible offense. So obviously we're rooting for Dallas in that game. But the Chiefs are really starting to hit stride here. And I think if you can find a way to get them next week, and, that's, of course, the game of the year every year, things start to get really interesting. But I think you start to feel a lot better about what could possibly be down the line here off of what you saw today. Now, it is just one game. We have seen multiple games this season where you didn't feel great. So we can't put all our chips into this basket. But you certainly can feel good about this one. I mean, there's no question about it. I'm not going to walk away from this saying, all right, you showed me once, I'm not going to take anything away from it. This was a team coming into this one on a 3-game win streak, running the ball exceptionally well. The Bills completely took that away and put up 40 points. You really couldn't have asked for a much better performance. Now, speaking of a performance that you really just you couldn't script it better. James Cook. Is it not insane? I mean, we are now 2 months removed from contract discussions surrounding this guy, with a large portion of this fan base ready to, break a table in half for all the wrong reasons because James Cook was threatening to become one of the higher paid running backs in the NFL. It winds up working out. The hold-in results in a mutual agreement between Bean and Cook. He becomes the 7th highest paid running back. Water under the bridge. Let's get ready for the year. And you might be thinking at the time, all right, so he gets paid. He doesn't have a full offseason under his belt because of the hold-ins and whatever else. I mean, what's this going to look like? It's looked phenomenal. I mean, you could argue right now going into week 9 here with the conclusion of week 8 being, for the Bills just a couple of hours ago. James Cook's looking like a bargain right now, which is nuts. And I think that even the most hardened James Cook contract hater. I didn't really know anybody who didn't like James. Everybody likes James Cook. But there were plenty of people who did not like the idea of paying James Cook. And I think even the biggest hater in terms of those on the side of the fence that were stressing that the Bills should not pay James Cook, I think most of those people today are saying, man, mouth and foot moment, because this is what you paid for. You're getting better from him now post-contract than you did with him trying to earn the contract. He had an incredible year last year, led the league in touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. He had 1,000 yards the year prior. He's well on pace for 1,000 yards again. And, he is the offense right now. The guy's looking like a bargain right now at the 7th highest paid running back in the NFL. He is the focal point of the Bills offense right now. And I think that, take this how you want. It doesn't really matter to me because I think it's a fact. I think in multiple games this year, he's been the best offensive player on the team. And he was the best offensive football player on the team for the Buffalo Bills this afternoon. He was. Now, Rage is saying, no one said don't pay Cook. That is not true. That is not true. Maybe you said that. You said what we said was pay him what he's worth. And that's what Bean did. We were right. I mean, maybe you were right, but brother, I'm telling you right now, there was a ton of people saying, just don't pay him. We don't pay running backs. Nobody pays running backs. Move on. The amount of people saying Ray Davis can just fill his shoes. We got Ty Johnson. We're fine. I mean, I think there were a lot of people in your shoes. I think I would probably lean towards me being in your shoes there, where I was thinking 20 million when that number was getting tossed around. I mean, I looked at that and said, come on. Saquon Barkley's coming off of a Jim Brown, Barry Sanders type season here. They just won a Super Bowl. He won Offensive Player of the Year. He had 2,000 yards. I mean, yeah, $20 million. Yeah. Right. But, you looked at what he was doing and he had to get paid. He had to get paid. It was a matter of what. I think a lot of people thought 20 million was a lot, but there were also a lot of people that were just saying, meh. A lot of people were just saying, don't pay the guy. Don't pay him. And I think most of those people that were saying that are certainly looking at it today saying, I don't know, I don't know what the Bills offense would be right now if we didn't have the security of James Cook locked in. Because he was the best offensive football player for the team today. He was the best player. He was the best football player on the field today. He was the best football player on the field this afternoon. And the weekend might finish here, and he might be the best offensive player throughout the league in Week 8 upon its conclusion. And he's had week after week after week of really solid play. And this is nothing, of course, without the offensive line. And the offensive line was just terrific today. You go back and watch some highlights. And of course, James Cook's vision, navigation, agility, athletic ability, you need all that to take advantage of a good offensive line. Not anybody can just line up back there and do what James Cook did because you have a good offensive line. But when you combine James Cook's ability with what the offensive line is capable of and what they did, against the Panthers, this is the result you get. This is the result you get. 11.5 yards a carry. I mean, that is disgusting. 11.5 yards per carry on nearly 20 carries is absurd. Is just absurd. And if you go back and watch the highlights, if you don't focus entirely on James Cook, dancing around and making magic happen, if you just focus in on the offensive line, I mean, you will see an incredible push right off the jump. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a Panthers defense. No, they're not the 85 Bears, but they had done a really good job against the run up until this point. They were 7th in efficiency against the run on defense. And I think that they flashed the stats a few times on the broadcast today, talking about their numbers going into this game and the numbers they were allowing in this game. And I think for the most part, the majority of them were like doubled. And because of this, if you watch the pregame, I was telling Rev, there was part of me that thought because the weaker element of the Panthers defense was their ability to get after the passer and, really stop the pass and or to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. I thought this was going to be an air raid type game. Maybe not what it was years ago where you're talking about airing the ball, 40 plus yards through the air and winning that way. But I just thought maybe it was going to be maybe like a 30 plus attempt Josh Allen football game and he gets 275 plus yards. I thought that maybe that would be what we saw. But they said, no, we don't care what the numbers say in terms of what you're doing on the ground. We're going to go right at you. And then they did. That's exactly what they did. I mean, James Cook, 19 carries, 216, 11.5 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 11.5 average per carry and 2 touchdowns. What did he do in the fourth quarter? What did he get? 2 handoffs? What did he get? 2 carries in the fourth quarter? I mean, seriously, if this game in an alternate universe, if James Cook was doing the same thing, but the Bills defense was getting rolled and this was like a, I don't know, 48-40 game. I mean, James Cook finishes this game with 300 rushing yards. In an alternate universe, if it was the same exact game, except the Panthers were just going nuclear on offense and James Cook had to play the full duration of the game, like there really is no doubt in my mind that he gets close to 300 yards in the football game. They took him out with like 13 minutes left. The guy was unbelievable. You're almost getting bored with it. Like, by the time the Bills were blowing him out, you're almost getting bored. Like you look up, oh, there's another James Cook first down on first down. 1st and 10, snap, hand off, James Cook. Up, move the sticks, do it again. I mean, it was like too easy. And it's not that easy. And it hasn't been easy against the Panthers for a lot of teams. Like how easy did it look? For an offense right now in the pass game where nothing seems easy, like let's be fair. Nothing seems easy in the pass game. Even you have your longest touchdown pass of the year today against Khalil Shakir. It still had to come from an amazing play, with Khalil Shakir making a guy miss and taking it to the house. I think Caroline's got something she wants to share on speakerphone over here. You got something you want to share with the audience, honey?
So loud, Z-Bot, you're so loud.
I'm so loud, yet she's choosing to sit right next to me. We are in a house with God knows how many rooms, yet she chooses to sit 5 feet from me, and I'm the loud one. Yeah, I'm loud. The Buffalo Bills just won 40-9. I might get a little louder. Should I turn it up?
No.
And she's over here on a conference call.
You're screaming at nobody.
I'm not screaming at nobody. I'm screaming at 1,700 plus Buffalo Fanatics right now.
I'm comfortable.
You're comfy?
I'm comfortable.
Well, that's all that matters. Seamus is saying, hey, why did they have Keon Coleman return a punt? I could not tell you. I don't know what that was. And he got smacked on that too. I don't want to see that again. And if the Bills wound up losing this game for whatever reason, that's one of the big talking points we'd have. I don't know what's going on with Keon Coleman. It's not there. It's clearly not a focal point of the offense. And when it does seem like it is, it's the same fade route down the sideline. They didn't run it today. Thank God. I hate the play. And hey, by the way, let's give a shout out to not running an end around today on 3rd and 1. Let's give a round of applause to getting the hell rid of that play. And hopefully it just completely leaves the playbook from here on out. I got to go on a rant here for a second, by the way. Just saw a pass interference in the Broncos game. I don't know how you guys are. I am so sick of pass interference. It is the most punitive penalty in sports. It is the most punitive penalty in sports. It is a game-altering penalty. In games, throughout the 4 major sports, is there any game-altering penalty where you can literally change the football game on a dime the way you can with a pass interference call? The only argument I could listen to would be if you award a penalty shot in hockey. But those are very rare, and they only come when it's blatantly obvious that a player trying to go and score is tripped up or is interfered with to the point in which it completely hindered them from being able to put the puck in the net, and you don't see it all that often. I am so sick and tired of this. Something has got to change. The penalty has got to be revamped. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. You got a Broncos receiver running a deep route, and he gets tripped up with the defender. They go from the 50-yard line to the 5-yard line. Like, it's just ridiculous. And Koala is saying exactly what I have been saying forever. It needs to be a set amount of yards, and it should be 10 or 15 yards. The fact that pass interference is a spot foul is such a bad element of this sport. It is such a bad blemish on the sport we all love. It's horrid. It's awful. There is no single other penalty in all of sports that affects the outcome of football games more so than this. And it's always at the discretion of a ref and however he's feeling about the particular play. You can't review it. And God knows we knew how much of a debacle that was when you could review it. They never overturned one of them. I mean, it's a joke. You have an incomplete pass with a guy who gets caught up with the defender and falls over. You have an incomplete overthrown ball turn into a 60-yard gain. And I've been wanting to just bitch about this for a while because I am so sick and tired of it. It ruins the sport. It ruins the sport. It flips games on a dime. I'm so sick of it. And then, you see these rules analysts come on. And they'll explain why it might not be a flag. This happens all the time now. Rules analysts will come on, explain 7 different reasons as to why a flag is or isn't a flag. Then you'll see the crew come out on the field and say the exact opposite of what they said. And this is the argument that I always get made back to me, right? And this is I get it. If you lessen the penalty, defenders will just tackle receivers on deep balls when they get beat. It still should be an automatic first down, 15 yards. I'm more so then you have to just live with it, I guess. It's going to be part of the football game to me, because you're going to have to live with that, because the fact that the way that it is right now, there are far too many errant calls that are flipping a game. They're just flipping the football game. Now, I see what you're saying. I do. But there's got to be another way. There's just got to be another way. I've always had this idea in mind. If you're a defender, it's almost like personal fouls, like to combat what you're talking about here, where defenders would just tackle their opponent during a route. To combat that, you would only be allowed a certain amount before you have to leave for a series or something. Like you'd have to, almost like in college, if you get called for a targeting call, you're thrown out of the football game. And now I'm not saying you get kicked out of the game for the whole game, but maybe you have to miss the next set of downs or the next series. I don't know. Something's got to give. It is the most punitive, game-altering penalty in all of sports, and I absolutely hate it. That's my side tangent. Anyway, speaking of the refs and whatnot, Bills have had their share of penalty problems going into this game. They still had more penalties than Carolina in this one. 7 penalties for 60 yards. I'd like to see some more improvement there, certainly. The Bills at one point in the year were like the least penalized team in the NFL, and that has significantly changed over the last month or so. Didn't affect them today, but we've seen it affect them in the past. So, that's something you want to see cleaned up. They still get called for a couple of holds a game. It seems like inevitable. What's odd is the Bills have like one of the best offensive lines, and not just in terms of what we watch. And I think it's obvious when you're watching, they're one of the best offensive lines, but in terms of the measurements or the metrics, they have one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, but they're also called for some of the most holding calls in the NFL. So like, how could it be both ways? Okay. Sorry to do this again. Okay. Did they call that one? Okay. What is it now? Because I'm seeing I just saw a pass interference out of the corner of my eye. That was a pass interference. And they didn't call it. No, it was a legal man downfield for Denver. So on this play, what I thought was a blatant pass interference. And you go back to the Ravens game. By the way, big W for the Ravens today. Beating Chicago without Lamar. And there was all that controversy about Lamar being a full participant in practice and then not playing. They actually still wound up covering the spread. So I think people who are upset about that might be less upset about it because of that. I think that was a big reason as to why people were kind of up in arms about it. Didn't wind up mattering much. But there was a play in the Bears game, Bears Ravens, and DeAndre Hopkins just blatant offensive pass interference. It's the Ravens' final drive of the game. They're up by a touchdown. If they score again, they'll put the football game away with the amount of time left. It's 3rd and 7. DeAndre Hopkins has both of his hands extended, completely, blatantly pushes off, catches the ball, no call. And then this is what drives me berserk. Then you go and bring in Gene Steratore, and you got the crew in the booth talking about it, right? They're talking about it, and they're all like, that's a blatant pass interference. Gene Steratore's breaking down the fact. I think like Hopkins even put his hands on the dude's face mask. So they're sitting there talking about how it's a flag. Meanwhile, life goes on. First down, game over, basically. Frustrating. 3rd down for the Bills offense today. Great. Also, another area of improvement for the defense today that we know has been a concern. They were great at getting the Panthers off the field, 4 of 11 on third down, which was nice to see too. What's shocking in this game is that you'd think usually when you win a football game in the fashion in which the Buffalo Bills did today, you'd think that there would be a major discrepancy in the time of possession, and there really wasn't. The Bills had 33 minutes of time of possession to the Panthers 26. And both teams basically ran 60 plays. The Bills ran 60, the Panthers ran 59. So it was just an ass kicking on a level playing field, really. There wasn't like the Bills ran a kickback to get to 40. And it wasn't like that they had 45 minutes of time of possession to their 15 or whatever. But it was just a between the trenches dominant win for the Buffalo Bills. And hopefully this sparks confidence moving forward, especially in a game next week that is so massive. I cannot believe we're already here. Bills, Chiefs next week. The Chiefs are going to be coming off of a short week, by the way, and that's going to be in Buffalo. Chiefs are heavily favored tomorrow night at home against the Washington Commanders without Jaden Daniels. In all likelihood, they're going to win that football game. They're more than a 10-point favorite. So they're going to go into that football game. I mean, here's what's kind of lying ahead, right? Here's what's going to be kind of waiting for you, because I think we can probably pencil in. I'd be stunned if the Commanders win that game, right? So if the Chiefs win on Monday night, and I think most of us are going to be in anticipation of that being the case, they get to 6-3. The Bills are 5-2. So if the Chiefs beat the Bills, right, then they're 5-3. The Chiefs are 6-3. And after their start, that was not what you would expect out of a Chiefs team. That doesn't lose one-score games. All of a sudden now they have the tiebreaker on Buffalo and are a half game ahead. So next week, so big. And then, the Patriots here too. You got to keep an eye out on New England. Not that you didn't already know that, but this is a good football team. This is a good football team who I just don't anticipate losing much, in the near future here. You got Atlanta. Who are the Atlanta Falcons, by the way? Anybody know? What in God's name is the Atlanta Falcons? You beat the Bills. That offense looks like Kurt Warner's Rams. And then you prior to that, you lose 30-0 to this same Panthers team today outside of Bryce Young. But once again, that's a team that wins on the ground. You lose 30-0 to them. Bills beat them 40-9. I don't know what Atlanta is, honest to God. Atlanta makes absolutely no sense to me, but that's who New England plays next week. And you got the Bucks after that. I'm high on the Bucks, but not as high as I usually am or would be. They're so injured. They have so many injuries. Now, right now, their biggest concern, they're on the goal line, by the way, against the Saints. They're up 7-3. The big concern for them, they need to get Bucky Irving back, but they lose Mike Evans for the year. Chris Godwin's still been out. Igbuka's banged up. They need to get healthy, but that's who the Patriots have in 2 weeks. So you have the Falcons, the Bucks, the Jets, the Bengals, the Giants, the Bills again, which will be huge. And I would anticipate by the time that game rolls around, I could see that game being flexed, to be honest. It's a December 14th game, so I believe that is week 15. That's going to be big. That game is going to be huge. And then, they play the Ravens. Lamar will obviously be back. And then they finish with the Jets and the Dolphins. So you got to keep a continuous eye out on New England, who have been rolling. This is now back-to-back weeks where they win almost with identical scores. 31-13 against the Titans last week, 32-13 this week against the Browns. And of course, those are two weaker teams, but the Browns defense is no joke, and they put up 32 on them. And Drake May's playing really well. My God, today, Drake May, 282 yards on 18-24 completed, 18-24 for 3 touchdowns. He had a pick as well. But how about Mac Hollins led the way today? 89 yards. Stephon Diggs was non-existent, but he didn't need to be the former Bill to step up with Mac Hollins, who showed up as I don't know if you guys saw online, he showed up as a inflatable chess piece to the facility. I miss Mac Hollins. I freaking love Mac Hollins. Oh, yeah, Cody's making a good point. What's up, Cody? Yeah, Myles Garrett had 5 sacks in that game. I don't understand why Myles Garrett went back there. Why did he go back there? Why? Any team would have paid him. Like, maybe not every single team could have given him exactly what he wanted, but he could have had a short list of legitimate contenders that he could have went and got paid similar money from and gone and done something here with his career from the team perspective. The guy's one of the best I've ever seen play the position. And from the team perspective, it's going to amount to nothing. And it's such a shame. It's really such a shame. It's going to be like, I don't want to say it's wasted. Because he's an all-time great, a Hall of Famer, but like from the team perspective, which is what the league boils down to, like, what more can you say? They've done nothing with him. Nothing. And I don't know why he went back there. They had, at one point, they had, 6 quarterbacks this offseason? In what world did you think things were going to be turned around? I get money. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it is a job, and get what you can while you can. But I think that you could certainly argue that similar type of money would have been found elsewhere, and it would have been it would have resulted in a better chance to have some team success by the time he hangs it up. You know, I mean, it's just you hate to see careers that are this dominant get fizzled out from the team perspective because of the inability to do anything around him. I mean, the perfect example is Joe Thomas from that same team. You know, Joe Thomas, one of the best offensive linemen ever. I mean, I don't even, like, did he even win what did he win? Maybe one playoff game? Maybe? I have no idea. You've seen crazier, right? I mean, you saw Dallas with Micah Parsons going into his prime. You saw him trade him to a team that beat their ass in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Like, the things can happen beyond what you would anticipate. Myles Garrett would have gotten paid by some contender. Absolutely. So my wife, I think she's now on her 7th phone call. I mean, you would think she's running a telecommunication service over here. You're getting me a Diet Coke? All right. Now I'm on the payroll. And you're getting a McFlurry?
Right now, wait, Chloe, it's MP16.
Making money moves over here. Business moves. Shit, Brandon Bean should bring you in and have you working the phones before the trade deadline. Holy Hand saying, what up, Bot? What up, Holy? Good to see you. Yeah. Good to see all you in here, by the way. Nearing in on 2,000 of you in the building. I'll give Rico everybody's best, of course. He wishes he could be here. I know he really wishes he could be here now after that W. But he went to go see his mom, and he's at a wedding, and he's having a good time with the family. He doesn't get out there as much as he'd like to, I know. So I'm sure he's enjoying it, and I'm sure he's even more so enjoying it after that W, and he'll be back with you this week. I miss getting on here with after a dub with Rico. We're going on a month now because we had 2 straight losses and a bye, so you know what, though? It'll make what will hopefully be a W against the Chiefs that much better. I mean, you know we're going to bust out them moves if we beat the Chiefs next week. So what did you wind up deciding on, honey?
I got an Oreo McFlurry, and you got a Diet Coke.
Wow.
So excited.
And she knew I needed one. I'm about fresh out.
Yep.
I'm on my 9th of the day.
And I'm going to take a nap now once you stop streaming.
Oh, man. Holy saying, you ready to talk about the Niners loss? What happened to the Niners today? Houston's another team like Atlanta to me that I can't figure out. Houston looked so bad against Seattle last week. So bad. That offense looked like, I mean, it was just abysmal. And CJ Stroud went nuclear today against the Niners. I mean, but you were thinking, though, for the Niners, at least, these injuries had to catch up with them at some point. You want to talk about a banged-up team. I mean, holy crap. That entire team, they can't catch a break. Speaking of which, the Giants today, too, I feel bad for their fans, man. Right when it started to feel like things were kind of trending in the right direction. And no, you weren't anticipating going to the playoffs this year, really, or doing much. But, you know, they were really fun to watch. And obviously they got something with Jackson Dart. But now you got Neighbors out for the year. Cam Scatterbo, poor guy, man. His ankle did a 180. I can't imagine he's back anytime soon. I think Dexter Lawrence got hurt today. They're banged up. So it's not just the Bills that are facing injury. And listen, the worst part about this day today was the loss of Ed Oliver, and we'll be monitoring that. Now, I did see Thigh Doc comment on it, and obviously this is all speculative, and we got to see more here, and we got to hear more and get updates. But from what I saw from Thigh Doc, he always has an initial read, and I know, like I said, it's all speculatory. But so Thigh Doc took a look at the video. I didn't want to read this. Once again, this is a complete assumption. This is just Thigh Doc's initial assessment of the situation. Thigh Doc says, quote, assuming surgery in 48 hours, he will be about 10 and a half weeks post-op by wildcard weekend. He will wear a brace. There will be some uncertainty. Could be good by either wildcard or divisional. Would be good by AFC Championship. Thigh Doc's initial read is that the injury, in his estimation, is a distal bicep tendon rupture, which is typically a 3-month recovery. Oh, my God. And it's even more of a bummer. And once again, I hope, and nobody hopes they're wrong, by the way, more than Thigh Doc, believe me. He's just doing his job. But if it ends up being surgery worthy, right when the guy thought he got off to such a hot start in that Ravens game, right? Like comes out, boom. Then he gets a sack today, comes out looking good. I mean, and you know what? It happens to him. He got tackled, man. He got tackled on that play. He got tackled from behind trying to make the tackle on I think it was Hubbard. Oh my God, Bo Nix just threw a dot. They're about to go up 27-10 unless the flag brings it back. Yep, touchdown. Wow, Denver is just dominating the Dallas Cowboys. So they're on the highway to 6-2 here. Dallas's D is bad. Bad. But yeah, that's such a bummer to read this. And we'll keep an eye out, of course, for confirmation on what this will end up actually being classified as. Yeah, so for all intents and purposes, this looks like this could be a potentially regular season ending. Hope to have him back for the postseason, I guess. Oh, that's a bummer. But, luckily, the silver lining in losing him potentially is that you do have Hoyt back from suspension, who looked phenomenal this afternoon. You got Larry Ogunjobi back. But, man, Hoyt was impressive. There was a scuffle, by the way, after the game. I don't know if you guys saw. Kimberly Martin on Twitter, she works for ESPN, and she tweeted out a clip of what looks to be some sort of scuffle between Panthers and Bills players post-game. Kimberly said she talked to Deion Dawkins on the field and asked him why the emotions were so high. Okay, so it looks like it was between Deion Dawkins and Ashawn Robinson. And I guess Dawkins looked up at the scoreboard and said 40-9. Said he was trying to shake hands post-game and then chaos. That's a hell of a response. I mean, sometimes that's all it is. Scoreboard. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to get into it with someone post-game when you lose 40-9. Joe Brady tweets out his 1-0 tweet. Good to see that again. James Cook tweeting out #Bills win with a little cookie emoji. Love it. So everyone's feeling good. I'm feeling good. Hopefully you guys are too. That was a feel-good victory. I mean, it really was. Bounce back massively. And like I said, the best way to put it, it's just what the doctor ordered. This is what we need after 2 losses and after the bye. And now, I mean, how about McDermott? This is an impressive run here. You now have a 9-0 record post-bye, have yet to lose since he's taken over. And you now have Josh Allen, knock on wood, never losing 3 consecutive games. Josh Allen now it continues his streak of not losing 3 straight. This is why, to me, this game was so pivotal, because if they had lost this game, the commonalities of the organization would have been fractured. You are now anticipating this team every time that they lose 2 straight to bounce back. And you are also anticipating this team to win every single time they come off the bye. And if you were to have gone into a game as a touchdown favorite and lose for the first time in both those situations, it would have been panic button territory. And I was at the point where I was convinced that if they were to have lost that football game, that you would never have heard the cries from the fan base be louder in terms of wanting to make significant changes from the top. This is why they had to respond the way that they did. And they did that. And that's where you got to give them all the credit in the world. They absolutely responded in a way that we were hoping they would. And I think for the most part, at least for me, they certainly exceeded expectations in the way they responded. Let's give a shout out to Jeremy, new member of the BF squad. Great to have you in, Jeremy. Thanks so much for joining up. Great to have you. Appreciate you. Scotty's coming in. Scotty's saying, Ed Oliver is out for the season with a torn bicep. At least that's what the medical doctor said after taking x-rays during halftime. Yeah, so Scotty, we just talked about that. It's looking like we're going to lose Ed Oliver for a while here. Looks like we're going to lose him until at least deep into the playoffs, if that. Now, of course, once again, nothing confirmed, all speculative up until this point, but that seems to be the general consensus until we do get some sort of confirmation on the injury. And it's just an absolute bummer because he was playing terrific football before he got hurt initially, came out today looking good, hurt again. So thinking of Ed Oliver, just a total bummer. And another one of these defensive injuries that continue to pile up for this team year in and year out. And you just hate to see it. Terrible. Danny Echo coming in saying, bring on KC. Great complimentary football. Totally. Couldn't agree more. But don't lose sight of our needs. Cornerback, safety, and wide receiver 1 depth threat to open up other receivers. In frustrating news, when Oliver, Milano are healthy, it's an accident. Yeah, so no Milano today. We'll see when we get him back. He wasn't out there today. Obviously, Raps on IR, Bernard hurt. And this is where you're thankful you had some resurgence, right? Where you got Maxwell Hairston back off of IR. You have Hoyt and Ogunjobi back. That's huge. So at least you're getting some of that resurgence. But yeah, I mean, once again, every year with this defense, it's just a laundry list of guys, and it continues to keep compiling what feels like year in and year out as the season goes along. But you said it best, Dan. Bring on KC. We're all excited. We're far more excited now than we would have been if this would have went south. We needed to get a game like this to re-spark the excitement, the energy, the confidence going into what is always the game of the year. And this time around, it will be in Buffalo. It's next week with a 5-2 Bills team that will likely be taking on a 5-3 Kansas City Chiefs team after they get what should be a victory against Washington at home on Monday Night Football, with them being a double-digit favorite. Matt's coming in. James Cook looked like the best player in the NFL. I mean, like I said earlier, Matt, I think the day could conclude here, and James Cook will finish as the best offensive player in the NFL over the weekend here. I think he'll probably finish with the best performance offensively of the weekend. It wouldn't shock me if he wins AFC Player of the Week on the offensive side of the ball, and it would be completely deserved. This was an historic performance from the franchise perspective. They flashed the graphic on the broadcast. It was the most rushing yards in a game since OJ back in 76. So we're talking about literally a half a century since we've seen the type of rushing performance that James Cook delivered today. And it was exactly what they needed in order to reinvigorate this offense towards putting points up on the board and dominating their opponent. They basically scored 40 points today because of what James Cook was able to do on the ground and what this offensive line was able to pave the way for him to do. It was an extraordinary performance, just absolutely off the charts. I can't wait to go back and rewatch it. We'll talk about it more on the smoke break and all the little intricacies within it. But it really just did feel easy. It felt, not that of course it is easy, but when you watched it, it came easy. And as I mentioned, with a pass game right now where nothing seems to feel easy or come easy, luckily for the Bills offense, based on the push the offensive line was getting and James Cook's ability to take advantage of that, it looked easy today. It felt easy, and the numbers reflect that. 19 carries, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11.5 yards per carry, just off the charts numbers, off the charts performance from James Cook. Just an incredible outing from him, an incredible outing from this defense, and an incredible bounce back W that was much needed for the Buffalo Bills coming off that bye and 2 consecutive losses. All right, we're an hour and a half in the books. We'll have a smoke break coming your way tomorrow. Well, we'll dive deeper into this one. I'll go and rewatch it, watch some tape as well, get some different angles. I'll also have Rev be coming on tomorrow night. He was on with me during the pregame show. He'll be joining me again tomorrow. So we'll dive even deeper into this game tomorrow. We'll talk about everything we spoke about today, but even further. We'll take a look at some other stuff as well. We'll talk about the week coming up, and of course, the Chiefs being on the other end. It's the greatest week of the season. It's the most, it's just the most anticipated week of the year. Even if you're not a Bills or Chiefs fan, it just is. It's Bills Chiefs week. So we'll dive into that, and of course, like I said, we'll get even further into this game, and we'll talk about what was the Bills' most dominant W of the year, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Rico will be back with you Tuesday for the Rico Report. You'll get his first initial reaction to this one, and I know he's got to be feeling good about it, so he's looking forward to being on with you, and that'll be a fun one as well. So we got you covered all week long. We're looking forward to hanging out with you, and I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with me after the postgame of the 40-9 drubbing that the Buffalo Bills delivered to the Carolina Panthers. Nearly 2,000 of you hanging out throughout the duration of the episode. I appreciate every single one of you. Hope you enjoyed the W, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. But in the meantime, that's going to do it for me. On the way out, by the way, I got to give a quick shout out to my friends over at Sleeper. Now, earlier in the day, on the pregame show, what did I have? I had Josh Allen more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. I had Rico Dowdle more than 54.5 rush yards, and I had Dalton Kincaid more than 50 receiving yards. So I did the reverse sweep. I got reverse swept. Didn't come close to hitting that one. Let's see if I can do a bit better in the nightcap. I'm very much looking forward to this football game. Sunday Night Football with the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers taking on Rodgers' former team in the Green Bay Packers. You can't beat that storyline. It's awesome. Could very likely be the last time Rodgers ever plays his former team. You have the Steelers coming off of a gut-wrenching loss to the Bengals a week ago in the icy hot bowl. So they'll be looking for revenge. And the AFC North now is awfully interesting with the Bengals losing a game that you would not have anticipated they were going to lose against the Jets this afternoon. You have the Ravens getting a W against the Bears without Lamar Jackson. So that division's really heating up. The Steelers are at the top of it right now, and they'll look to continue to pave that path towards winning the division tonight. So, all right, here are the numbers. I got to go with it. Aaron Rodgers, more than 222.5 passing yards. I know he's going to be dialed in. He has to be. He just got to be. I'm going to do Josh Jacobs with more than a touchdown or more than a half touchdown here. And give me DK Metcalf to get in the end zone off of one of Rodgers' passes. So Rodgers, more than 222.5 pass yards. Josh Jacobs to get in the end zone. DK Metcalf to get in the end zone. That's good for a multiplier of 3.5. If you want to tell that play, or of course, create your own, link is in the description below. Click that and sign up for Sleeper. When you do, you will get a 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit using the promo code BF25. And before you even make your first deposit, try out Sleeper completely free. You download the app, you create an account, you will instantly get a free $20 credit to use on tonight's game or whatever game you wish, to be able to try it out, check it out, and move on from there. So check out Sleeper today. Link in the description below. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently available in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right. Much love as always, everybody. Nearly 2,000 of you in here once again. Much love and appreciation to each and every one. Big W. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. I will see you back here tomorrow for the smoke break on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your evening. Much love, and go Bills.